Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Jig Retro, where we're going to be taking a look at building a nice little Super Nintendo video game collection on a budget. It's not news that retro video game prices are through the roof as it stands. I have searched high and low to find what I think are some really great games for the system that are still at a reasonable price. If you enjoy this content, then please show the channel some love by subscribing and sharing this content. It can be really hard to justify the financial commitment of starting a video game collection nowadays. You rarely see bargains out in the wild anymore at car boot sales or charity shops. Mostly thanks to eBay, I think, as people can quickly check the prices that some of these video games are going for, and that's the expectation that they have on the sale of their goods. Slowly, they usually end up sticking top end value on it. With that said, I also think that retro video game prices are not quite as bad as they're made out to be. Obviously, there are rarer or high demand games that do command a higher price, but looking a bit deeper, there are some fantastic games that suit even the tightest of purse strings. For this episode, I've decided to focus on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES if you will, and also I've decided to take a look at the unboxed prices. Let's face it, cardboard boxes for video game cases was always a crap idea, and I won't even pay a premium for some cardboard even in my own video game collection. So here goes. I've searched high and low to find a really nice SNES collection that, even if you buy absolutely all of them that I suggest, won't cost you any more than about £60, which is the price of a single brand new title nowadays. I'll start off with the best value for money game on the system straight out the bat, and that's Super Mario All-Stars. The best game for value for money wise on the system by far. This can be picked up for £8, and with that you get essentially a collection of all the 8-bit Super Mario games, including the brutally tough Japanese version of Super Mario 2. And if that's not enough, then all the games have been graphically overhauled to bring them up to the power of the 16-bit console, borrowing some art and styling from Super Mario World, while still maintaining the feel of the original. The integrated save state on the cartridge rounds off this amazing package perfectly. Next on the list is also the cheapest game on this list, and that is Super Tennis. This is a very simple, pick up and difficult to master tennis game, which really comes into its own in multiplayer, and I feel that for the £4 you really just can't go wrong. It's not going to blow your socks off graphically, but this is a highly playable sports title with a huge fun factor. Next on this list is only a touch more expensive, and that's the timeless classic International Superstar Soccer Deluxe. This is £5. You can't even buy a pint for that. A great early game in probably my favourite football video game series. I find the 2D 16-bit graphical style of this one holds up much better than the preceding games in 3D. And for an early soccer game, it still feels so realistic and deep.
Jump. He shoots. Keeper fumbles.
I remember seeing the next game running at my local Toys R Us back in the day and feeling like I'd taken a step into the future with these amazing for the time 3D graphics. Starwing can be picked up nowadays for the super modest price of £6, and despite these early 3D graphics not holding up too well nowadays, this game still has lots more to offer. This is a fantastic arcade style space shooter. NBA Jam. Somehow this game manages to worm its way into so much of my content, and although my personal preference is for the Mega Drive version, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this version for £6. Well, actually, during the making of this video, I have noticed that there is no background music during gameplay in this version, which does seem a bit of an oversight, but hey ho, still a fantastic game. Pilot Wings was the original technical showpiece for the console, and despite it being a fairly shallow experience compared to later games, I think you will easily get £8 worth of fun out of this game, and I think it's a great little game to have in any Super Nintendo collection. F-Zero for £10, I think this is a great choice. Another technological showpiece for the Mode 7 ability of the console, and a fab, fast-paced, futuristic and challenging racer to boot. If only this could have somehow been developed as a two-player racer similar to Mario Kart, but I do feel that there is enough multiplayer experiences in this list in order to justify putting this here. You can't get a game like this on the mighty Mega Drive, the kind of experience that is unique to the Super Nintendo. The last game in this list unfortunately breaches that £10 sweet spot for a video game, but I do think that any video game collection without Donkey Kong Country for £10 would be incomplete. This absolutely beautiful pre-rendered graphical masterpiece and stunning soundtrack just seems timeless. And there is a fantastic and tight platforming experience here to boot. Loads of variety in the levels from a visual and mechanics standpoint mean that this game never gets old and is endlessly replayable. So that's the list, and I think that these games would set off any Super Nintendo collection just right. 8 games for just under £60. If you have just over this budget at more like £80, then I have 2 more honourable mentions for you for the frugal video game collector. Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior. I know that it doesn't have the extra speed settings of Turbo or the extra characters of Super, but for £8 you can't go wrong with this original arcade masterpiece that is wonderfully ported to the Super Nintendo. As much as I prefer the 6-button pad of the Mega Drive, I do appreciate that the SNES controller works fine straight out the box. And Super Smash TV at £12. This is a brilliant arcade game about a brutal TV show. Fantastic twin stick shooter. With nods to the 80s Arnie flick Running Man, a cracking twin stick shooter which works perfectly with a SNES controller. 8 directions for movement to the left on the D-pad, and 4 buttons on the right for shooting in different directions. Really fun in 2-player action. So there you have it, proof that even in today's day and age you can still pick up some cracking titles on a budget. Don't get me wrong, if you're into the Super Nintendo RPG or JRPG scene, then you're going to have to fork out some serious cash. But if you're a bit savvy, then I promise there's still some great games there that won't absolutely destroy your wallet. Until next time, much love, please look after yourselves and each other and get your geek on with Jig Retro.